All right.
This was most certainly an idea that you brought to the forefront, so I think you should come with just laying out a little bit of what we're going to do.
All right. So first and foremost, who thought we'd be here? This is episode 82 now.
Correct, it is.
We're here at Q29, our home studio. And today's episode is going to be the very close topic to both of us, I'd say. It also ties directly into the last couple episodes that we've been talking about with goals for the new year. Today's episode is going to be a discussion about self-doubt. Why we doubt ourselves, what are some of the causes, some personal experiences that me and JP both have with self-doubt, some examples from our lives, and then we both took some time to research things about self-doubt, ways to approach it, how to handle it, some of the things that cause it. So we can dive right in if you want. I actually wrote down the dictionary definition of self-doubt just to get real into it.
What is this, a best man speech?
It is. It is.
Webster's dictionary defines love.
So self-doubt is defined as a lack of confidence in oneself and one's ability. Some of the causes that we get that self-doubt stems from can be past negative experiences, criticism, childhood bullying, trauma, stuff like that. It's also caused by can also be caused by perfectionism, social comparison, fear of failure, internal factors like a harsh inner critic, lack of support from important people in your life. Doubt is a mental state of uncertainty or indecision often caused by lack of conviction or trust in oneself.
Say that one more time.
Doubt is a mental state of uncertainty or indecision often involving lack of conviction or trust in oneself.
I heard you the first time. I just I thought it was a really good.
For the people in the back.
Yeah, it was good. That's a good, yeah. Is that also the dictionary definition?
No, that is something that I just stumbled upon while I was researching self-doubt.
Got it.
So, where should we begin? What did you come up with in your research of self-doubt?
So I went with kind of some of the stuff it's not all based around like philosophers, but like I just went with like kind of like I came at it from like more of like I think like an existential view, or and I kind of found myself finding different like philosophers or things like that, some of whom thought that self-doubt was a good thing, and then others whom thought that it was useless.
I ironically was doubting myself while I was writing down the stuff that I wrote down for this episode. So
yeah, it all ties together. Yeah. So I think that when we think about self-doubt, we think of it as only this like negative thing. But I think that over the years, one of the things that I've realized personally about self-doubt is that it's often just like a signal to you that you care about something, or that something is meaningful, or that there's risk involved in something. And that I would even argue that it can certainly be unhealthy in certain ways, but I think that I would also say that it is a necessary part of life in order to do the things that you're meant to do and accomplish the things that you're meant to do. Because if everything was easy and you never thought that like something could go wrong, then what would you ever do? If we all had this like certainty about how everything was going to turn out and how you were going to be, then what would you know, right? Like if you knew that when you were, 26 years old, addicted to drugs, that you would be here right now, what would be the point of all that journey that you didn't have to go through specifically, right? Because there's a lot of times in there, I'm sure, that you doubted yourself. So
it's an interesting take on it. I like the way that you're approaching it from a standpoint of it can actually be used as a motivating factor or a positive factor to show you that you are, in fact, in line with the things that you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I think that it's something that a lot of people fight with themselves about, and I think that
I struggle with that.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, but I think that like I don't think that you're mad about yourself doubting yourself. I think you're mad about the fact that you aren't taking action against it. Do you find that resonates with you?
Yeah, I'd say that like a bigger portion of the battles that I have with myself over self-doubt would be because I know in fact, what I need to be doing to get the things done and accomplish the things that I'd like to accomplish. Yet I find an overwhelming voice in my head is telling me that like the way that I'm approaching it isn't correct, or the steps that I'm taking aren't the right steps that you need to accomplish something. Just any little minuscule thing that can possibly throw me off the track that I'm supposed to be on. And sometimes I'll allow that to spiral and, get too far into that, which is a reason that I looked up an article from Forbes by PhD Marjorie Waller. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly, on how to beat self-doubt.
Okay.
So
is this like a steps thing?
So she just gives a list of a few different approaches that you can use to help yourself navigate self-doubt when it occurs. Cool. So first she has, like you said, embracing it as being part of the human experience. Everybody experiences self-doubt. It happens to all of us, especially like you said, when you're doing or pursuing something meaningful in life that means a lot to you and has value. Everybody's going to doubt themselves, thinking that it's above them or not in their reach. But it, in fact, is if you just take the steps that you need to take to get there.
One of the things that came up in my research was the war of art, which has been a theme that we brought up on this one. And in particular, when it comes to artists, and how the more and more meaningful something can be, the more doubt comes about it, right?
Yeah.
Because there's more on the line, for sure.
I think Stephen Pressfield calls it the resistance.
Resistance, yes, of course.
The resistance that builds. The greater it is, the more you are supposed to be doing that thing.
Correct. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that it's like a sign to you from the universe that you should be doing that more and more.
Yeah. So another thing that she has down, which I found interesting, is to combat doubt with doubt itself.
Oh, this came up in mine too. I'm so glad you brought this up. It's like to doubt your own doubt.
Yes.
Right?
So taking in, when you start to feel that feeling that you are doubting yourself, maybe take a step back and doubt that doubt. Why is that there? How does it know? How does that doubt know that things can't go right?
Okay, so this is an interesting thing that came up in mind. This is a different way of wording it. So this is from the philosopher Descartes.
Okay.
He says that doubt can be productive when aimed outward, but destructive when aimed inward. You should have doubt about your assumptions, but not your self-worth. Doubt is meant to sharpen the truth, but not to delete yourself.
I really like that.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. That it's so interesting because it's just like when we think about doubt, we assume that the doubt we have about ourselves or whatever the thing the outcome is going to be is the truth, but we never think to doubt the original assumption that you're making about the worst possible outcome. Right?
Yeah. Taking a step back and being like, there's multiple outcomes, actually.
Yes.
If we're going to get like this and we're going to start doubting ourselves, then let's go down every avenue.
Let's doubt the thing that you're saying it could possibly, like, if you can believe that it could go, like, it's a cliche thing to say, but it's like, if you can believe that the worst possible outcome could come true, you can also believe that the best one will.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting
way to approach it. And that they're equally likely, and in fact, the best one oftentimes is more likely, maybe still unlikely, but still more likely than the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one she has is calling out your critic. So that inner critic that you have, maybe stepping back and being like, who are you? Who am I? Where did this come from? Putting yourself into that phrasing where you're the observer and you're aware and you're looking at the critic and the doubt that it's causing in your internal conversation. And you just step back and be like, where is this coming from? Sometimes I often feel like if I have a question that I need answered, the best way to go about it is looking at internal and asking yourself that question, whether it's 10 minutes of meditation on a topic or a question or something that I'm trying to decide, just taking the time to be still and silent and letting your inner knowing show itself to you. And I think that can be a very successful way to approach self-doubt.
Yeah, I very much like that. I think that there's also a lot to be said, and like Brene Brown talks about this, in that like a great way to release your self-doubt can be to be vulnerable about it. And that like even times like a lot of the self-doubt that we have lives just within ourselves, and we never talk about it. We never put it out there. And then that's why it's so easy for it to take over your head, because you're not being vulnerable about it. And oftentimes you find out that, like, even if I was to just talk to you about something, right? Or whatever it might be, your partner, you can talk to your family about it, whatever it might be, putting something out there and being vulnerable about the fact, like, hey, I don't know how this is going to work out. Not even necessarily to say that they're going to give you some advice that's going to change your self-doubt. It's just to say that, like, you're putting it out there, and then that allows you to look at it from that observer point of view.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way to go about it.
Yeah.
She also goes on to say that another way that you can approach it is to make your mission bigger than the fear. So whatever you're doubting, if you're doubting yourself, go out and make the cause of what you're trying to accomplish bigger than the fear can possibly be. So if,
yeah, I'm curious what you mean by that.
So I mean, I would interpret that as in, if you're like, say for me with making content,
it's a reoccurring theme so far.
Yeah. You're doubting yourself about the content that you can make.
Yeah.
But if I step back and I look at it from what's the bigger thing at stake here? It's my happiness. It's the ability to monetize my content and make money off of it.
Providing for your family.
Yeah. So taking a step back and making the overall goal bigger than what you're afraid of. So if I'm afraid of making content, that's tough. It is what it is.
It's tough for everybody. Yeah, of course.
The only way to go about that is to know that by making that content, the end goal that I have, which is much larger than what I'm fearing, is attainable, than to just focus on that and not focus on this little tiny fear that seems insurmountable when it's really not.
And it's even like, you could almost make it also, because like you mentioned mission, that it's like thinking about how you could help people and how that could so much further outweigh somebody who makes a negative comment or somebody who judges you for what you're doing.
Yeah. So the next thing she actually has is building a tribe of believers. So your own community, whether it's your friends that you're close with, your family, whether you have like an accountability partner, somebody that just like, hey, that checks in with you daily. Building a community of people that believe in you will definitely change the way that you look at yourself. If you have this group of people that you can fall back on, like you said, and talk it out and be like, look, I'm doubting myself here.
Being vulnerable about the fact that you have that fear.
Yeah. And having that conversation with those people will build a community of people that are there to encourage you and inspire you. And then also it might help them, because when then they're doubting themselves, they can come to you and have that same discussion.
Yeah, that's big. Yeah. It's, because I think that is that doubt has to be for someone who wants to do something hard like that, or, and like in today's day and age, despite however many people make a career out of doing content or whatever you want to talk about, but I think that's a good example of it, is that doubt is just a natural part of that, right? And that it's like, you'd be silly to think that the potential for you making, let's call it millions of dollars, doing that, you'd be silly to think that that was going to come without you having the doubt to begin with, right?
Yeah.
It'd be like, and that's just like starting a company. Yeah. That's like trying to become a professional athlete, right? Or, a million different things, starting a family, whatever it might be, right? I'm sure you had doubts about being a parent, right? Like there's going to be all these things that come up in terms of anything that is worth doing will make you feel a little bit uncomfortable and will make you say, am I capable of this? Right?
Yeah. The last thing that she has listed, which is something that I know that both of us have tapped into from time to time, or something that we do all the time, is training your brain daily. So that becomes a big one, and like a key for me in that category would be affirmations.
Sure.
The more that you write something down and say something and make it a part of the cycle of thoughts that you have, the more likely it is to become one of the more dominating thoughts that you have in that cycle. So by training your brain to think differently when you're in the face of self-doubt, whether it's like little things are probably the best place to start. Like you're like something small and train your brain to do that day after day, time after time. It becomes your automatic reaction to
Well, in a lot of
things.
ways, I think discipline
Yeah.
is a good way to little by little combat doubt, right? It's not just the meditation, right? I mean, you can be disciplined in that, but it's like if you don't believe that you can get in shape, go to the gym for 6 months straight and then come and talk to me.
Yeah.
Until you
Absolutely.
have that discipline, of course you're going to doubt yourself. Of course, because you've never stuck to anything for 6 months. Why the fuck would it go that way? Like, why would you just like wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm so sure that I'll be able to get this all done, right? But in a lot of ways, that also just ties into the idea of that, like, I think a big part of self-doubt is the overthinking, right? And oftentimes what we're locked in on overthinking, excuse me, is you're locked in on all those worst case possible scenarios, right? Your brain is not great at overthinking like every single good thing that could possibly come at this, right? But it's fantastic at seeing every single roadblock, every single thing that could go wrong, every negative comment, every person that's going to come after you, every whatever. Like there's no possible way that people like Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg or whatever, say what you will about them, but like Mark Zuckerberg didn't know how to run $1 billion company when he created Facebook, right? And he's just an example, but like having that uncertainty about what is going to happen is the only way that you can get to that point. And I know it kind of feels like I'm just harping on the same kind of thing, but it's just like the only way that you will get over that is by taking that action, right? Like you were probably less afraid of starting a podcast than I was when we started, but I'm damn sure not afraid of one now because we've put out 80 fucking episodes. So like, why would? But of course, at that point, I doubted: are we capable of that? Will anybody listen? Will people laugh at us? And you know what? I'm sure that a lot of that happened, but who cares, right? All of it was behind closed doors, never affected us, and we now have the evidence that we could say we've done this for X amount of time, and that I think is like an unbelievable way of. And I think it's easy to say it once you've done it for years. And like, yeah, but like also look at people, the people who are really successful at it did it for 10 years, 15 years or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be podcasting. But this is something that I want to share too, but that I'll get to in a moment, which is that like the kind of like the idea today of that self-doubt comes from like the number of like followers or views or things like that, right? Because it's like everybody makes that joke, but it's so true. Is that like everybody loves a content creator until it's your friend, right? Until it's the person who like lives next door to you, then you're laughing at them for setting up their tripod, right? But then nobody's laughing at them when they get the brand deal with Nike or they get sponsored by whoever, right? And they've got millions of followers. Nobody laughs at that, right? So I think that this is interesting. This is from the philosopher Kafka, and he talks about how, or he kind of like can be translated into today, that like modern self-doubt comes from these invisible standards that we've created for ourselves, right? Because a couple hundred years ago, you weren't able to know what, even 100 years ago, you weren't necessarily able to know what this guy in Japan was doing, or this girl in Spain was doing, or even this dude in like Texas, right? Or whatever it might be, right? Like, it's all can be wrapped up in like these things that are like, I should be further by now, right? Or that like everyone else knows something and has cracked the code, but I don't know it and I won't be able to figure it out, right? And I think that specifically can tie so much into like what you're talking about, which is like, I have the same doubts about all of that, right? Is that like, I have 200 something subscribers on YouTube, but I'm on Instagram telling people, these are 3 things you can do to improve your podcast, right? But that only comes from the fact is because I know that Joe Rogan and Theo Von and Amy Poehler have millions of subscribers, right? So, but if I didn't know that, wouldn't I think that what I have is impressive? It's only not impressive comparatively, right?
Yes,
and
exactly.
that like someone who is starting their podcast today, what we've done is impressive to them, right? And that all of that stuff is relative, right? And also, like, somebody who has millions of followers or whatever would also probably find what we've done impressive, because at one point they were right here at 2 years still trying to build something and figure out what works for them.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah, it's as well, we talked about this with Carney on his episode, because it's not that comparison and that doubt can literally be found in every area of anything you want in life if you look at it. And
Or if you look for it.
If you look for it, yeah. So instead of looking for it, take the time to just do what you need to do, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and then you don't have to worry about the stuff.
Yeah, and I think that it's easier said than done, but like a lot of these things can be solved through being some type of consistent, right? Which is to say that like I said, I'll use the example again of going to the gym. Like, yeah, sure. Like there will be people that laugh at you and you want to post your journey. You want to do this right in the beginning, blah, blah, blah. But nobody, they'll say like, oh, they'll give up, right? Or that there's probably people out there who said that about us, right? When we started our podcast, to be like, they won't last. What's the percentage? I know you know the...
Oh, it's like 90,
that don't make it past episode 20?
90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 20.
Okay.
Yeah, like we're well past.
Just by being consistent,
Yeah.
we have put ourselves in the top 20% of podcasts, technically. Yeah. Now, is there a big difference between the 20% and the top 1%? Of course. But, like, by doing those things, by showing up, we've done it. And yeah, has it been inconsistent at sometimes? Sure.
Yeah.
But we're still here, and we've made the point to do it, right? Same deal with something like you want to lose 20 pounds. Go be consistent. Because you can't say that, like, stop looking for the hack to this exercise will obliterate belly fat.
I love those ones. And
Go
it's just like
be-
some guy doing like standing squat.
So, whatever it is. Yeah, exactly. That it's just like, in a lot of ways, like it's been said a million times before on podcasts, on YouTube videos, on TV shows. Consistency will solve a lot of your problems, especially when it comes to self-doubt. Like if you doubt yourself that you can get in shape, talk to me in 6 months after you've tried.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe that's easy as somebody who's been skinny his whole life to say. but you get exactly
Yeah, I understand exactly what
you get
you're
exactly
saying.
what I mean, is that it's just like, do you think that like the top bodybuilders in the world, or even just the people who are on Instagram being fitness influencers, like people listen to them because they've done the proof of getting those things done.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they were fat but talking about how I go to the gym every day for the last 5 years and nothing has happened, that's not the case, because that literally never happens.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? And I'm sure that they all had self-doubts about posting, or they had self-doubts about if they could get in shape, or if they were even an authority or they could help people. But they went out and found out. And it's a lot easier said than done. I'll be the first one to say it. But like in most of these scenarios, taking action and looking at your fear in the face will at least help you get somewhere with that self-doubt.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a great segue into our next episode.
Yeah,
Where,
of course.
Do you have more that you'd like to go over for self-doubt?
Maybe the only other thing that I'd like to go over to is kind of like, this has been said before on this podcast, but like the idea of just that, like a lot of but I think it applies to doubt in the way of a lot of where it comes from is the idea of being attached to what the outcome will be, right? It's either attached to like an outcome, it's attached to you not wanting to lose your identity or hurting your ego, right? It's the idea that if I start posting on Instagram and I don't get 1,000 followers right away, that will hurt my ego, right? Or people will think I'm stupid, right? Or I want to do this thing that people consider cringe, but I want to be the one person who nobody will consider to be cringe doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And then that's where it comes from. Like you talk about these people who I want to start creating, or I want to start a podcast, or I want to do whatever. And it's just like, well, you can't get to episode 100 without getting to number 1, right? And at number 1, you will, unless you're somebody
Amy Poehler.
yeah, exactly. Unless you're somebody who already has a huge following that you're going to post that you're starting a podcast and 100,000 people are going to subscribe right away, which, by the way, is 0.0001% of people who want to do this, especially in today's day and age. Then it's just like you don't get there without getting it into there, right? And that is just like you have to swallow your pride and say that doubt doesn't, like, like it's going back to what you were saying, is that like doubt the fact that, like, in my opinion, when we started this, I thought that the only feedback that we could possibly get was people thinking that we were cringe or losers, right? However you want to describe that, right? And overwhelmingly in the opposite direction. It's been that, right? But your mind will tell you that, like, so start by like doubting the fact that, like, hey, maybe this will help one person.
Yeah. Think about how many times that outcome has actually happened to you in your past experiences, because that's life's greatest teacher. You're doubting yourself because, like you said, you haven't done something disciplined enough or consistently enough. But if you do any research into your own experiences, anything that you've ever doubted before, like, if you've moved past that doubt, how did you do it? Well,
also, I think what's important to note about that as well is that, like, we all speak like we know that the worst outcome is going to happen, as if it's already happened to us. But you don't speak like that best possible outcome is the same exact thing, right? Like you said, look back at your past for evidence of those things happening, right? But if it's never happened to you, then you don't have enough evidence to say that, like, this is what's happened to somebody, right?
Yeah. Well,
it's a tricky thing to walk, and I think that a lot of the things we talk about are always going to be easier said than done. But if you want to start conquering doubt, it starts with doing something about it.
Yeah. And when you tune in next week, we'll have an episode entirely formatted on how to overcome that and put those plans into action.
Yeah, and how to take action on your desires.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like that was one of the better discussions we've had, where we've taken a topic and thoroughly gone over that topic.
Yeah, exactly. And I honestly like doing this, and I think that we should do more episodes like this where we come at it from two different
absolutely
POVs, right? That's just like mine is a little bit more out there, or however you want to describe it.
Yeah.
And yours is like the researcher, right? And we can always mix it up and bounce back and forth. But I think it's good to have multiple points of view on it. That, like I said, it doesn't have to be a debate. It just should be like we're both not saying the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have questions about self-doubt, if you have ways that you've overcome self-doubt, things that have helped you, leave them in the comments. Let somebody else read them. Maybe it'll help them. And if not, tune in next week. We have an episode based on the book Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill, where we're going to dive into his version of how to attain what you're after and some steps to take that will help you get to that destination.
Yeah, and it won't just be focused upon
just because the book's
just the
called
finance.
Think
Just
and
it won't.
Rich
Yeah, we're gonna like make our own version of it. That's like, everybody wants money, but ours is gonna be more in the of like getting. Maybe you want a healthy relationship. Maybe you want the job of your dreams. Maybe you want
to post that content.
Yes, exactly. Right. All right. Cool. This was really good, man.
All right, episode 82?
Yes.
82. Who thought we'd be here?